Well, welcome back to Life on Cars, and something a bit different today that a lot of the subscribers have been asking for. I'm going to go through a bit of a history journey on the Rolls-Royce for you, just to let you know a little bit about the early life of the car, what I've discovered so far, have I found out anything about the previous life this car led before it came into my possession. So hope you enjoy the video. Let's go. So the car was originally bought by a businessman who spent a lot of time in the London area and also internationally. He did travel overseas quite a lot, and when he was traveling overseas, the car was parked up for considerable lengths of time. And the early days, the early few years of the car, it wasn't doing a huge amount of mileage, and we'll find out a bit later on how I know that. And that was basically the car's life for several years. And then the owner of the car was also connected in a business sense to the Hilton Hotel Group, and he actually was based in the Nottingham area, and one of the hotels that he was involved in was the Hilton Gateway Hotel in Nottingham, and this car spent a lot of its life parked up in the car park there at Hilton, which is where I came across this car. Now, when I bought this car, I had no idea of the history. I took a complete gamble. If you watch some of the early videos, you'll see that I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was a real gamble, and there was absolutely no service history whatsoever with this car. There was no records apart from what you could see online, and obviously the registration document. The interesting thing about the car that I didn't realise until I'd actually completed the purchase was that I am actually the second owner. So this car has only ever had one previous owner. So that sparked my interest actually to have a look into seeing if I could uncover some of the history. And that journey led me to joining the Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club and then finding out about the Rolls-Royce and Bentley archives that are held at the Hunt House. So that's where the story begins today. So come on, let's find out what happened when I visited the Hunt House, which is the headquarters of the Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club. So here we are then. I've made it to the Hunt House. I was working nearby, so it made common sense to see if I could fit a visit in. And it was well worth the visit because there's so much to see here. It's basically a bit of an archive, a museum, a workshop where they do technical seminars, which you'll see in a minute, but absolutely fascinating. I had a wonderful few hours here having a look around all the special things that they've managed to display and just a bit of history about this place. So this Hunt House was bought in 1977 by the Sir Henry Royce Memorial Foundation, and it was bought to house the huge volume, the huge archive material that had been accumulated by Rolls-Royce Limited. And also, as well as the archive material, there's a lot of interesting memorabilia in there and a bit of a museum as well. So it's a fascinating place to look around. There's lots to see. There's a bit of Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club, members' cars history as well, where they've won awards and prizes and things like that. Some of the very early Merlin, Rolls-Royce Merlin engines and Rolls-Royce Ghost engines, pre-war vehicles and things like that. Lots to see, lots to read on. So it was super interesting. So it wasn't long before I found myself in the workshops that they have as well at the back of the building, which they use for technical seminars. And you can see some pre-war vehicles here that are in there. Again, just showing people how the vehicles were constructed. You can see the frameworks and the engines quite easily. And then there's a Silver Cloud, I believe, chassis there, which again you can look around and see how it was constructed, see how the brakes work, the dual braking system. So very, very interesting. And then a silver shadow that's been sectioned. So basically half the car has been cut away, panels have been opened up so that you can see inside and see how those vehicles were constructed. Again, very, very useful for technical seminars and just to get a general feel of how these amazing cars were put together by Rolls-Royce. So the next part of the tour was fascinating, really, because they've got the archives here, the Rolls-Royce archives, which span back many, many years. There's 120,000 vehicle archives here and 500,000 technical drawings, such as this four-way gauge technical drawing. But yeah, the vehicle archives, so can you imagine there's 120,000 different build records here for various Rolls-Royce models over the years. Everything going back to the 20 and also more recent ones, the Silver Shadows, the Silver Spirits like my car. But seeing is believing, and it's all very, very well organised. It's very, very well looked after, and for a small fee, members can research and see if their own build records are available. So with a bit of help from the team there, I was able to look and find the Silver Spirit records. Here they are. And sure enough, I managed to find my chassis number 54999. And once I knew these records were available, well, I just had to organise getting them bought. So for a small fee, you can get your own records scanned and printed and sent to you. So that's what I did. So come on, let's head up to my office where it's a bit warmer, and we'll continue the story and start looking at some of the records that I was able to get from the archives. So here we are then. I received two files. I received the build records and I know it says construction and test on both, but basically I got the construction and test records, but I also got service records as well, which is 8 years worth. So yeah, we'll have a look at the construction and test records first. I'll show you some of the highlights. I just want to pick out some of the best bits for you. So here we are then. This is the original order from Jack Barclays to, so there you can see Jack Barclays to Rolls-Royce in Crewe, Cheshire. And the car was originally ordered from Jack Barclays to be built for the customer on the 29th of March 1994. And it's interesting because what you can do is you can trace to see how long it actually took to build the car. So the car was ordered on the 29th of March, and you'll see when we look at the delivery records and service records that the car didn't turn up to Jack Barclays until June. And then interestingly, the car wasn't actually registered until November 94, so quite a long process from order, delivery to the dealership, and then being registered. So the process started in March and didn't finish until November of the same year. So it's quite a long process. Fascinating, really. So yeah, here's the original order. And you can see we've got information on here about the colour, wildberry. We've got information on here about the colour of the piping. So the piping on the seats is in wildberry. And we've got the armrests in sandstone, the rest of the leather is in sandstone, so fascia, under dash, sandstone, roof, sandstone. And there's a bit of a mystery on these because, well, what it says is features not fitted. It says no telephone and aerial kit, but my car does have a telephone and aerial kit fitted. So all I can think is that the original owner must have decided to have the telephone and aerial kit fitted afterwards. But again, the strange thing is, I've got absolutely no records of that happening in the service records for the following 8 years. So, and I'm presuming, you know, it must have been fitted before the car got to 8 years old, but there's nothing at all in the service records about the telephone and aerial being fitted. So that's a bit of a mystery. But you can also see on here some of the things that you could have ordered if you wanted to. So it could have come with picnic tables. Unfortunately, it didn't. It could have come with, oh, there's another mystery. So it says no loose footrests. Well, I do have the footrests. The footrests are with the car. Go figure. No occasional seat, no rear quarter badges. Well, yeah, there's no rear quarter badges on the car. No front wing badges. No air horns. No front fog lamps. Now, the front fog lamps is something that I would have liked to have had fit, so I'm going to look into fitting a pair myself. No rug to boot, so that must have been the lamb's wool rug, because obviously it does have a carpet, so I'm presuming that's the lamb's wool rug that you could have had for the boot. No cocktail cabinet. No grab handles for the front seats. No badge bar. No left-hand side boot lid badge. So I don't know what that left-hand side boot lid badge was, but it does have Silver Spirit III on the right-hand side. No mascot alarm. I don't know what the mascot alarm is. Oh, mascot. I'm presuming that's the Spirit of Ecstasy. So maybe you could have had some kind of alarm fitted for the Spirit of Ecstasy for the theft. So, and like I've said, no radio telephone and no telephone aerial kit, which strangely my car does have. So that's some more details of the order there. You can see that the other thing that's interesting is originally it came fitted with Avon 235 7015 tyres with white walls. So there were white walls originally when it left the factory, so I'm going to make sure it goes back to the white walls. It says it was fitted with a multi-CD and radio tape. And the other thing that's unique, or could be unique to my car, can you see there where it says the fine line type, double thin fine lines, fine line colour, order deviation. All right, so there's an order deviation. So what that means is there was something special asked for the fine lines. So here we are, and if we turn that over, we've got the details there of the production deviation. So the original owner requested that the double fine lines were painted in sandstone to match the interior. So it would appear that you could ask Rolls-Royce to have whatever colour you wanted on the fine lines, and the original owner of my car decided that he wanted them in sandstone. So that could be very, very unique to my car. You never know, there might be no other Rolls-Royce Silver Spirits 3s in Wildberry with sandstone fine lines. Incredible. See there a little bit more information about the other things, that all the different colours, woodwork, burr walnut and boxwood inlay. I've talked about the boxwood inlay before in another video and explained what that is. Steering wheel done in black hide. The other thing you get with a lot of the construction and build records is the way Rolls-Royce built these cars back in the day at Crewe. Basically everything that needed to be done on the car had to be signed off. So I'm not showing you all of it because there's quite a lot, as you can imagine, to build a car, but some of it's, fascinating. Look at all this here: the tightness of the front seat belt, the tightness of the rear seat belt, the tightness of the door striker pins, and different people in the factory have signed them off, look, to say that they've done it. But you can see here where somebody's gone round and they've marked where things are not quite right and they wanted things to be rectified before the body went into the next stage of the build process. Here's another one here. Look, I can just make out some of the comments here. So that looks like someone's put dent there. So there must have been a little tiny dent just underneath the headlights, and various other inscriptions there where they're not quite happy with things on the body. Couple of more signatures. I like this one here, look. So if you're still around, Mr. D Shufflebottom, Thank you for tightening for torque tightened steering column attachment bolts. So I thank you for your service there, Mr. D. Shufflebottom, for tightening up the steering column on my car. Look at this one here. Again, looks like GN was, whoever GN was, he had a lot to do, didn't he? So GN, he had to tighten all these things up, and he had to fit tappet blocks and check locking, fit and peen Welsh washer. God knows what that is. Fit crankshaft and thrust washers, record end float, 0.006 of an inch, torque tighten main bearing set screws, refer to BSI, fit camshaft, check end float, and so on and so on and so on. Dynamic balance engine, refer to BSI, GN. He was a busy boy, GN. We've mentioned the underseal a lot, haven't we, on my videos? I've been saying how well the cars. It does make reference there to underseal. Tectil 506-4, is that or something? So on the 16th of May 1994, there was some underseal applied. This is the air con being checked, and they've written down the temperatures and the pressures for the air conditioning system. And then there's some engine settings as well. Plenum chamber balance. They've written some numbers down. I wanted to show you this one as well, because you might have heard me mention before, my uncle was a test driver at Rolls-Royce, and I imagine that this will have been the kind of thing that he would have got up to. So this car's obviously been tested, or it's been on a road test, because they've mentioned, look, there's some wind noise from the rear quarter there, and they've also mentioned that there's a bit of a water leak. Which needed to be, somebody's put retest. And then on the front as well, look, they've mentioned that there's a bit of there's some wind noise that they're not happy with, and somebody's initials there, GB. So they were very careful, Rolls-Royce, when they did all the checks. So it turns out that the original owner took the car back to Jack Barclay's for annual servicing, regular servicing, from when it was new, so 1994, all the way up until 2002. So I've actually got 8 years of service records now from Jack Barclay's of London, which is brilliant, isn't it? And it makes for fascinating reading. So I'm going to share some of that now with you. So come on, let's take a look. So here we are then, look, following on from the construction records. This is the original document for the PDI. This is the original repair order for the original PDI. So we've got here date in 15th of June, so that's when it's come from Rolls-Royce, and it came in at 8:30, and then it went out it was required for 4:50 on the 16th of June. So this is the repair order to get the PDI done on the vehicle. And these are all the things that Jack Barclay wasn't happy with. So the technicians there who were doing the inspection, they picked up on loads of paint imperfections that they weren't happy with, dull bits of on the stainless steel bumper look that they weren't happy with, lots of paint marks and bits and pieces. So they then would have done a claim back to Rolls-Royce, so that they will have done a warranty claim when the car was new to rectify all these little marks that they weren't happy with. Look at this here. They weren't happy with the polishing of the rear bumper and the radiator shell. So here's some more of the documentation where they weren't happy at Jack Barclay's with the condition of the car received from Rolls-Royce. Scratches to front bumper, and they put scratches to radiator shell, remove and polish. So there you go. Fascinating stuff. And you get all these original documents where people have written and people have put final inspections and dates and signatures. So it just tells the story of the car, really, and it's just so nice to have these. I didn't expect to be able to get hold of all this sort of stuff, but so it's kind of made my day to receive all this sort of stuff from the Rolls-Royce archives, because like I said at the start of the video, I had absolutely no service records whatsoever for this car, and I've ended up with a huge 8-year history up to 2002. Unfortunately, after 2002, things are not available because the car stopped going to the dealer network after that. So let's fast forward to 1999 now. I'm just going to share with you some of the invoices that were presented to the original owner for routine servicing, and some of the costs are quite eye-watering, especially when you consider it was in the late 1990s. So let's have a quick look. So we've got one here. Look, this was the 21st of June 1999, and the car had only done 14,982 miles, I think that says. So you know, so from 1994 when it was new to 1999, 5 years, the car had only done 14,982 miles. Collect the car from the apartments. So he liked to have his cars collected. He didn't take them to Jack Barclay personally. He had them collected, as you would when you're a Rolls-Royce owner. And there was he asked them to test the gearbox because he thought the gears were slipping. Turns out they weren't. The aerial wasn't working properly, so they freed off and lubricated the aerial. They also supplied and fitted 3 new outer wheel trims, which are, and then it says, and fit 1 wheel trim left in the boot. So it looks like he lost some of his wheel trims, and it needed the gas pressure spheres changing. So one of the jobs that I've done on the car since buying it was actually done back in 1999. So it had a couple of spheres. It had the handbrake freed off, and also adjust front cigar lighter, clean off and tighten oil leaks from the height control valve, and rocker covers. I've just noticed as well that it looks like he wanted some pieces replacing from the toolkit, because it says screwdriver bit, posi, and screwdriver head. So it looks like the screwdriver had gone missing from the toolkit, possibly. Service bits, ECU strip, I don't know what that is. The outer trim ring that we mentioned, the spheres, and it looks like it had a pair of handbrake pads on it as well. And I'm guessing a lot of this, like, so the handbrake pads and the spheres and things like that are probably just because of lack of use. I mean, look at the mileage. So the handbrake probably seized up and needed new pads due to lack of use. So the bill for that will be £1,510 and 25p. Look at this here. I have an MOT certificate dated February the 16th, 2000. And the car has only done looks like 16,213 miles at that point. You'll like this one as well. This was, so we're now 8th of May, 2002. And you can see here that the mileage has now gone up to 23,000, sorry, just losing the focus there, aren't we? 23,363 miles. And this time round it had, let's see now, screen wash, oil change, it had front brake pads, it had rear brake pads. And again, so, you know, I'm thinking, you know, at 23,000 miles, it must have just been down to lack of use, maybe corroded over or whatever. So they changed the brake pads, they changed some sort of strap, I don't know what that is. It looks like it got another trim ring. Must have been in a habit of losing the trim rings off the car. It also got a new aerial, which was £140, and it got a pivot bush as well, and it also got a tyre by the looks of things. 235 70 15. That was £213 at the time. Sounds expensive, doesn't it? £2,160 and 16p that cost. So yeah, another big bill. And honestly, looking through the file, there are quite a lot of big bills. There's one here, look, this one, I've just gone back to the year 21st of February 2000, 16,203 miles. And the interesting thing on this one is it got some rear struts. So for some reason it needed the rear struts replacing. It had only done 16,000 miles. The rear struts were £280 and 72p. Well, it says quantity 1. Does that mean there's only one replaced? Possibly. But anyway, yeah, the bill that time was £1,430. So yeah, it was expensive to run a Rolls-Royce, wasn't it, back in the day? And especially if it's maybe suffering from lack of use, which I definitely think that's what's going on with this one. The other thing you tend to get as well in the service history is a lot of the original service invoices were handwritten, and then obviously they must have been put through a computer afterwards. So you tend to get the handwritten ones, which are quite nice as well from the dealership. I'll just show you this as well. This happened at least 5 times during the service history, and it's where the Jack Barclays has received a call from the owner to come out to the vehicle. So that in this instance here, it was it'd only done 9,371 miles, and the date was the 27th of May 1997, so a few years after the car was bought. Like I say, this kind of thing has happened 4 or 5 times in this service history that I've received. So they were asked to go out to the car. So the technician went to the Gloucester Park Apartments, Ashburn Place, London. That's obviously where the car was being kept at the time. Remove owner's battery and fit slave battery due to car not being used for some time. Check and fully recharge owner's battery as required. And the owner got a bill for £218. And like I said, I've seen that happen about 5 times, I think it is, in total over the 8 years of history. So the car obviously went through long periods of time where it was stood doing nothing, and the battery was going flat, and then Jack Barclays would come out to the car, either fit a new battery or take the old one off, put a slave one on, get the old one charged up, and then go back and fit the battery back on. So it tells a story. It tells a story of very little use for the first part of its life, and then unfortunately the trail goes cold because I haven't got any records after 2002. Apart from MOT history that you can see online. And the car's only, it's got 40-odd thousand miles on the clock now, so it's hardly being used really, when you think it was obviously just doing short runs around the south, around the London area. So I quite like these. This takes me back to when I was a mechanic working for a Toyota dealership. These are basically created when these are clocking in cards. So the mechanic will clock onto the job, and the mechanic will write down how long they've been on, like what time they started, etc. And then the clocking on and clocking off machine confirms how long they've been working on the car, and then these are ripped off and stuck on to the back of the job card. So yeah, happy memories that of when I was a mechanic. So they used to do the same thing at Jack Barclays. The last thing I want to show you that I discovered in the service records going back to the original PDI was this document here. And this document shows me that the registration number M1AHJ has been on this car since new. And I didn't know that, but it was actually allocated to the car when it was new. So the car was never given any other number plate. It's always been on M1AHJ. And I know that because this is the PDI order for the car. And it says here, delivery date 12th of October 1994 to the showroom. And it says prepare and valet for delivery, V55, check for requisition for £130, register the car, umbrella. So there must have been an umbrella supplied from Jack Barclay's. Unfortunately, I don't know where that's gone. Invoice, PX Ash, don't know what that is, whether it might have been a car part X, I'm not sure. No extras. And here we go, look. Make up number plates for M1AHJ. Cherished number being purchased by customer M1AHJ for £1,000 to include VAT and transfer fee, and signature 6th of October 1994. So that document there proves to me that the registration number that's still with the car is the original number plate. It's never had any other number plate. So that's quite cool. And it kind of makes me think that the number plate deserves to stay with the car. What do you think? So I'm sure you can agree, the service history, it's kind of painting a picture of the first 5-6 years of the car's life, where it's basically done very little mileage. It's obviously being used by the original owner for short trips around the London area, and probably business trips, maybe a couple of journeys to the airport, I don't know, but the mileage has stayed very, very low for the first few years of the car's life. And that's kind of reflected in the service history, because I think a lot of the jobs that have needed doing in the early days is more to do with lack of use, if you like. So if you've been with Life on Cars for a while, following my journey on this Rolls-Royce, you'll probably know a little bit of the rest of the story. So the original owner had no use for the car anymore. He wasn't visiting the UK, and the car was sat for a long time, and then it went for an MOT in 2021, which it failed. Obviously prior to that it was affected a little bit by the pandemic, when people couldn't travel and things like that. But because it failed its MOT in 2021, the car sat for another few years, and eventually it was decided that they wanted to dispose of the car. And and I'd already noticed the car because I'd been staying at the hotel on business about a year prior. Didn't realise it was abandoned, went back again 6 months later, and the car was still in the same spot, and I realised that it had been abandoned. And I made some inquiries, and the rest of the story. I ended up getting the car. So yeah, it's had an interesting life, this car. It's had a life of very little use in the early days. It's only got 44,000 miles on the clock now. So what I think I need to do with this car, and let me know if you agree, is when I get this car on the road, I need to use the hell out of this car. It needs to be used, because these cars don't like to be sat. So once I get this car up and running and legal for the UK, I need to use it, and use it often. And that's the plan. So there we are then. I hope you enjoyed this little video of some of the history that I've uncovered on this Rolls-Royce. And I hope it's answered some of your questions around how this beautiful car ended up being left in a hotel car park. If you did enjoy the episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. That would be fantastic. And have a look around the playlist. There's plenty that we've already done on the Rolls-Royce that you might be interested in if you are new to the channel. So yeah, please check out all the videos, and if you like what you see, give us a subscribe and share as well. And I'll be back very soon with something else on Life on Cars. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye bye. Bye bye.